Good morning. Good morning. Okay. We are here, a little soggy, but we're here. I hope everybody did okay with the storm. Like we're still going to be feeling it for the rest of the week. Any questions on what you read over the week or over the weekend? Chapters 5 and 6. Any questions? No. Chapter 5 was on dementia. That's a pretty important topic. You're going to have a lot of patients with dementia over your career. So knowing how to work with patients with dementia is important. We need to understand that it's different than working with children. A lot of people get this kind of confused because, you know, if we're feeding them and we're taking care of their toileting needs and, you know, they can't dress themselves, we tend to think we can treat them like children. They're not, they're adults. So they're adults with the inability to perform those skills, but they are adults. So we aren't going to try to teach them manners. And this is actually kind of a really big issue right now because a lot of CNAs that work with dementia patients are doing things like holding food until they say please, or telling them that they have to say thank you when, you know, things are done for them. These are adults. I wouldn't, you know, if I were serving at a restaurant, I wouldn't hold your food until you said please. You don't do that. You do that with children to teach them manners. These are adults. These are not kids. Does that make sense? So it's really important that we understand that even though we're taking care of them, that doesn't mean that they're not adults with adult rights. Good? Now, I do want to talk to you about the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's because they are different. So, and I'm going to use our weather as an example here. The term dementia is a very broad, non-specific term. It's kind of like saying I'm sick, right? I'm sick. It tells you I'm not well, but it doesn't really tell you how I'm sick. What does that really mean? Does it mean I'm sick to my stomach? Does it mean I have a headache? Does it mean I have COVID? Does it mean that I have cancer? I mean, that term sick just really means not well, but it's very unspecific. Make sense? If I say it's raining, well, yes, it is raining, but is it a little quick afternoon thunderstorm? Is it extended event? Is it part of a tropical system? Is it a hurricane, right? Raining can mean a lot of different things. Make sense? Dementia can mean a lot of different things. Dementia just means the brain is not well, but it doesn't give us anything specific. Okay. The term Alzheimer's is a type of dementia, and Alzheimer's is a very specific type of dementia. It's not the only type, though. You can have dementia from advanced Parkinson's, Lewy body dementia, Jacobson-Crutchfield disease. You can have multi-infarct dementia, which means lots of little tiny strokes in the brain that robs those areas of blood flow, and those areas don't work anymore. All of those are going to give us different symptoms. Alzheimer's is the most common one. It's the one that we see most often. And it's basically when you create memories in your brain, they're not compact single entities. A memory is going to connect to other memories through what we call the webs. Okay, it's little connecting neurons. So let's take this room for example. Most of you guys get cold in here. So when you think of cold, this is going to be part of your cold memories. But it's also going to be part of your memory of black scrubs. So when you're 83 years old and you see somebody in black scrubs, you may remember a portion of this class because that is tied to your memory. You might be sitting next to somebody who eats Cheetos in here, and that smell will be part of your memory in here. It's raining. We have a tropical storm going on. That's going to be part of your memory of this, this session. So your memories are made up of sights and sounds and smells and feelings, but those sights and sounds and smells and feelings are also going to be associated with other memories that you have. So it makes this gigantic 3D web in your brain. Now, when you have dementia, specifically Alzheimer's dementia, those connections between the memories break. But what makes Alzheimer's so difficult is that some days they're working and other days they're not. So you can have somebody who seems like they've got it together today, but tomorrow they can't even remember where they are. And the next day they think they're in France. And the next day they're back to, oh, I know where I'm at. Because these connections are fuzzy. They come and they go. Well, as Alzheimer's progresses, you lose not just connections to memories, but connections to yourself, your body. You forget how to walk. You forget how to feed yourself. You no longer recognize hunger and thirst. So it's those connections that break down, the inability to target specific memories. Okay, good, makes sense? It's different than other forms of dementia. Other forms of dementia have other symptoms. They all have to do with the brain, because remember, the brain is our control system of the entire body. So they all the symptoms have to do with the brain and what it does, but every type of dementia is going to have a different effect in the brain. Okay, good. So when we're working with dementia patients, specifically Alzheimer's patients, never use the phrase, don't you remember? Because they don't. I'm going to tell you right now, they don't. If they remembered, they wouldn't be asking. So if you have somebody that says, I'm getting ready to go home, where's the door? And you tell them, you're not going home, this is where you live now. They might get very upset with you because this is most certainly not where they live. In their memory, they live in a house on this street, right? And that can set up a very adversarial relationship because you are telling them something that in their mind is not true. How many of you guys have ever believed something so strongly that you're willing to fight anybody for it? Okay. And that's what we're setting up here. So instead of trying to convince them, no, you live here, which can make them very angry and frustrated and lash out, try to get them involved in something else. Okay, well, we can do that later. Right now, let's go over here because they're playing some music. Do you hear that music? Get them involved in something else. And that kind of helps them let go of that thought process that they're fixating on. Good. But I want to talk to you just a minute about the need to be needed, because especially in dementia units, because we're taking care of those patients, everything they need comes through us, everything. It's a problem. Most of you guys, if you woke up tomorrow morning and nobody needed anything from you, you would do a happy dance. Your time is your own now. You can do anything you want. Isn't that fantastic, right? You don't have to do dishes. You don't have to cook. You don't have to clean. You don't have to mow the yard. You don't have to take out the trash. You don't have to do anything. It's all your time. And you would love it for about a week. And then after that, you're going to be like, yeah, but I'm bored now. Right? Maybe I don't want to do the dishes, but I'm bored. I need something to do with all this time. Right? I can't just sit here and stare at the wall. I need something to do. About a week later, it's going to dawn on you that nobody needs you. Imagine for a second, if you woke up tomorrow and nobody needed you. Nobody. Not a single person on this planet, not your best friend, not your parents, not your kids. Nobody needed you. So you've got nothing to do and nobody needs you. When we start to think about how this might affect our patients, we can see how a lot of our older patients, especially those with dementia, can become very aggravated, very hostile, very depressed, because you've got nothing to do and nobody needs you. And that leads to thought processes like, why am I still here? Now, if you come in as a CNA and you also treat the patient like they don't matter, that's going to reinforce those feelings. Does that make sense? Okay. So we've got to be very careful with how we work with dementia patients and not have them, give them the impression that we don't care if they're there, that they are an imposition on us. And oh my gosh, Charlie, if you ask that question one more time, I'm going to lose it on you. And these are all things I've seen and heard from CNAs. But that is going to have a very negative effect on your patient. Make sense? So we've really got to evaluate how we work with dementia patients. And involving them in their care is a really big part of what we need to be doing. So yes, we might be brushing their teeth, but try to involve them in the process to the extent that they're able to. Or they may need help with eating, but again, we want to involve them in that process. What do you want first? What do you want next? Involve them in the process. But there's some things that we can do to kind of help our patients when they get particularly anxious. Most of the time, your dementia patients, when they're anxious, they need something to do. Right now, they have nothing to do. Everything is done for them. So we've got to give them something to do. And this is where you'll see in dementia units, you'll see an activities director put a whole bunch of socks on the table and have a whole bunch of ladies around the table and let's match up socks. Or you may have, let's fold these washcloths, right? These are comforting, familiar tasks that lead the patient to feel like they are needed. They are contributing to society, their society. It's not slave labor. It's important for personal identification, knowing where you fit into things. Now, men generally don't match socks or fold washcloths. That wasn't really their role before. Men are much more tactile. So a lot of times with men, we need to give them something tactile to do. Now, when I was working with dementia patients, I had little activities that I would do with each one of them, especially if I needed to buy some time. So for women, if I needed a little bit of time, I would hand them a magazine, like a home, like a Better Homes and Gardens or a Good Housekeeping or something like that. In every one of those home magazines, there is an ad for Snuggle Air or Snuggle fabric softener. Every one. Now, that snuggle ad I really like because it has a big fluffy teddy bear in the ad, non-threatening. And I would hand the magazine to the woman and I'd say, there's a teddy bear in here. Can you find the teddy bear for me? Can you find the teddy bear? Now, most older women, looking through magazines was a very important part of their routine. They looked forward to them coming. Completely different society. We get everything off of our phones now. Don't really look at magazines that come in the mail anymore. So this may not be intuitive for you, but it was part of their experience. So flipping through magazines, looking for a teddy bear is a great way to buy yourself some time when you have a patient, a female patient that's particularly needy. Now, men, they're not going to look through magazines very much, but you can. I always had a like a clear plastic shoebox, and I would fill it up with raw rice. I always use jasmine rice because it had a really soothing smell to it. Fill it up with rice, not cooked. And in there, I would put nuts and bolts and marbles. And I would hand that, I put it on the table in front of the guy and say, there's some things in here. They got lost. Can you find them? Now, if I had somebody that was still a little bit like a jokester, a little bit with it, I would say, I've lost my marbles. They're in here. Can you help me find them? Now, remember, we talked about this last week. Memories that are formed when you are young are good quality memories that stick. Let's think about our older population. Boys, what kind of games did they play when they were young? Anybody know? If you've got an 80-year-old person, what kind of games did they play when they were young? Anybody know? You should know. Because if you're going to be working with a population that is going to be able to recall childhood memories, but not current memories, then you need to know a little bit about their childhood to be able to relate to them. Otherwise, it's kind of like you just came from Mars. They're not going to be able to relate to you at all because you're a totally different generation. So we need to have a little bit of curiosity about what life was like for our patients when they were young so that we can help redirect them with that knowledge. Marbles was one of the most common games that were played by young men, young boy children. So if you hand them marbles in a box, ask them to find them, it will help spark memories from their childhood that'll help ground them to where they are. Okay, good. Now, there is an awesome instructor. Her name is Teepa Snow, Teepasnow. You go find her on social media. She's all over the place. If you go to work with dementia patients, you need to tune into some of her teachings because she goes into detail with how to work with dementia patients, specifically Alzheimer's patients. And she will be a huge resource for you. Okay, good. All right, so let's see here. Lots of good mornings. Let's see here. Maritza says, my test is scheduled for Monday, August 12th. Very nervous, but ready. So a week from today. Thank you for your commitment and dedication to training very good CNAs. I'm blessed by your teachings. God bless. Well, thank you so much for those kind words and best of luck to you. Great vibes out to you. You're going to do great. Let us know how you do. Good morning. Yes, true. I work for hospice. They appreciate your presence. Absolutely. Absolutely. See, they played with marble balls. Yep. Or combat figures. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Knowing a little bit about your patient population and how they grew up, if you're working with dementia patients, is going to be very important. All right. So let's get into scores for chapters 5 and 6. So you read chapter 5 and 6 in the yellow book, and then you took the tests on page 185 and 186, and then you graded it. So when I go down the list, go ahead and tell me your scores. I'm going to say it. That's going to Alexa. Here. No, stop. Thank you. Tanya. Kira. Thank you. Carolise. Fine. Naraya. Christopher. Jada. Thank you. Do you have 2, 3, and 4 for me by any chance? Yes. Thank you. Peyton. That's fine. Alex. I know Jessica's online. Rebecca. Amy. Fernanda. Stephanie. Chayla. Thank you. David. Ariana. Thank you. And Owen. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. Oh, thank you, Jessica. Awesome. Awesome. Oh, and Rebecca's on too. Good morning, Rebecca. Okay, I'll go ahead and log those. Very good. Got it. Okay. Let's get into today's lessons. Did you guys realize this? Class is half over. There's only 3 classes left after today. That's it. It goes very fast, very fast. And after today, we're going to be half over of skills as well. So it goes very fast. I have the game show tomorrow. You may want to tune into this. It is on YouTube. So if you go to youtube.com/foryourCNA, that's the only place that this airs. Because you have to join via YouTube in order to play the game show. I have a program that sits on top of YouTube, and when you type in your answer, the program reads it, awards points, and puts you on a leaderboard. And then I give prizes based on 1, 2, the top 3 participants. Tomorrow's game show is going to be on emergencies. So these are test-like questions, things that you would see on the state exam. Same types of questions. I give you the question, 4 answer choices. You put in the chat which answer choice you choose. And if you're right, it's going to award points. If you're wrong, you won't get any points. And then it'll keep track of your points through the game and you can win prizes. But this is a great way to practice for the written test before you get there. All right, so let's do a quick review. How do we know what to do with each patient? Yeah, we follow the care plan. And it's not just the care plan, it's the care plan, the whole care plan, and nothing but that care plan. While we're doing that, we'll observe for any abnormalities, changes, or pain, and we'll report those observations to the nurse. Every skill starts with the opening. Every opening starts with a knock. Once you've knocked, you'll enter, greet the resident, address them by name, introduce yourself, describe the skill, obtain permission, close the curtain, wash your hands, and then gather your supplies. But the most important point for the opening is that we don't touch the patient until we have what kind of hands? Clean hands. Along the way, we'll have to evaluate if we need gloves. And there's 3 questions we have to ask to figure out whether gloves are needed. We want to find out, are we possibly going to touch body fluids, personal skin, or non-intact skin? If the answer is yes or maybe, you need gloves. If the answer is no, you don't need gloves to perform routine skin-to-skin contact as long as there's no body fluids, personal skin, or non-intact skin. You do want to wash your hands before you touch the patient, We're going to wash our hands after we touch the patient, and that rids us of any pathogens that might be on our skin. But we don't always need gloves. If we do need gloves, the first thing your gloves should touch is the patient. Once you've touched the patient, you need to remove your gloves correctly and pay attention to things in the environment that you have touched with those soiled gloves to reduce cross-contamination. We're going to use a barrier anytime we use supplies because a barrier provides a clean area for your clean supplies. We only touch supplies with clean hands, and those supplies can't touch your uniform. Get your barrier first before you go and get the supplies. That keeps you from holding those supplies up against your uniform while you try to spread out the barrier. Phew. Excuse me. Privacy blankets are used anytime the patient is uncovered or undressed, and they're used to keep the patient warm and provide privacy. When you put them on, we don't snap them or shake them. We put them over the sheet and pull the sheet down underneath. And then at the end of the skill, if you have soiled gloves, you have to remove those gloves first before you remove the privacy blanket. That way you're not touching that sheet that's going to go right up next to their face with soiled gloves. We've gone over all of this. This is just a review. Linen rules. We need to keep your linens and the environment clean, so linens cannot touch the floor. So it doesn't matter whether those linens are clean or dirty, they cannot touch the floor. You have to have clean hands to get your linens. Don't let linens touch your uniform. Do not snap or shake your linens. Clean rolls toward you, dirty rolls away. And anything you don't use still has to be discarded. Scoot and roll. The patient must remain in the center of the bed. It doesn't matter whether they're on their back or on their side. They're always in the center of the bed because you're not going to have side rails in all settings to keep them safely in that bed. And side rails fail anyway. So relying on side rails for safety is never a good option. So in order to keep the patient safely in the middle of the bed, ask them to scoot towards you or scoot them towards you before you roll them. And that keeps them in the center of the bed. After the roll, you always roll them away from you. We've got to remain behind the patient's behind. And the patient must always remain in the middle of the bed. Look how much we've learned, right? Washing rules. Basins are no soap zones. We do not add soap to that basin because we have to have water for rinsing. When we get water, we're going to use a paper towel to turn the faucet on, and we're going to check the water. It should feel warm, not hot, not cold, just warm. And the patient is going to check the water as well. We'll go over the leaves method in a minute. Whatever we wash, we rinse. Whatever rinse, we dry. We don't get our surface wet, so protect your surface with a barrier or a towel or something. And if we're going to use lotion, we'll warm it up first and then wipe off the excess. Basin cleaning. All basins are cleaned the same way. Doesn't matter what they are. All basins are cleaned the same way. For the test, it's rinse, dry, store. That's all we need to do. But we can't open the drawer with dirty hands or dirty gloves, so we need a paper towel to open that drawer. And then the closing, you have to end the skill with clean hands and a patient who feels cared about and cared for. So we're going to ensure the environment is clean and safe, bed height in the low position. We'll ask about comfort, offer a magazine, adjust the head of the bed if requested, open the privacy curtain, give the patient call light and instructions. And then once all of that is done, we can wash our hands. But once we've washed our hands, we do not return back to the patient. Because if you return back to the patient, you've just washed off all their cooties. If you come back over here and give them their call light, you've just re-cootied up. So if you come back over here to the patient for any reason, what do you need to do? Wash your hands again. Absolutely. And then if we need to document, that will happen after hand washing. And then if we document, we have to wash our hands again. Now, pulse. We learned how to take a pulse. A pulse is a measurement of how many times the heart beat over 1 minute. To take a pulse, we'll always support the arm. Pulses are always reported over 1 minute. How long you count is up to the care plan, but they're reported over 1 minute. And a normal pulse range is between 60 and 100. Don't use your thumb to take the pulse. You're going to use your fingertips, not the flat part of your fingers, your fingertips, but never your thumb. Okay. Radial pulse is located on the thumb side of the wrist at the bendy part. You want to make sure you say start and stop when you're counting, so the evaluator start and stop with you. This is a skill that you have to repeat once with each evaluator, and then you're going to document at the end. Dressing a resident, we're going to ask about clothing preference. What do you want to wear? We want to make sure we get that clothing before we undress them. We're going to lift from below, supporting all joints while lifting. Undress strong arm first, dress weak arm first. Don't overextend or force movement. Adjust clothing for neatness and appearance. Dispose of your dirty items in the hamper and put the call light in the stronger hand. Speaking of hands, hand and nail care. This is only going to be done on one hand for the test. We'll support that wrist and arm at all times. We'll soak the hand in water, take it out and put it on a towel. Remember, it never goes directly on the table. It always goes on a soft surface, a towel. We're going to wash, rinse, and dry. Then we'll use an orange stick, the slanted end, to clean under the nails, wiping it off in between each nail. You're going to use an emery board filed in one direction only toward the center. And then we'll apply lotion last. When we apply lotion, we warm it up in our hands, put it on, and then wipe off the excess. Make an occupied bed. Your patient needs to be on their side in the middle of the bed when changing the bottom sheet. Clean rolls toward you, dirty rolls away. Remain behind, the patient's behind. Smooth any wrinkles, make hospital corners. Loosen the sheet over the toes so they've got some wiggle room. And replace the pillowcase with the opening facing away from the door. Sideline position. You want to scoot the patient towards you. You're going to take the furthest arm up, closest arm over, closest knee bent, furthest knee angled, turn them on their side and put a pillow behind their back to keep them there. Remember, gravity will always try to pull the patient back onto their back. So we need a pillow to keep them in that position. Pillow between the legs, specifically between the knees and the ankles. Pillow under that top arm. Adjust the pillow under their head and put the call light in the bottom hand. Remember, when we have to change a patient's position, we do it every 2 hours around the clock. Foot care. Foot care is all about inspecting. Looks just like hand and nail care, a little lower. So we're going to soak the foot, take it out, put it on a towel to wash, put it back in the basin to rinse, put it back on the towel to dry. We don't do anything with toenails but look at them. You want to inspect all surfaces of the foot. We don't put lotion between the toes, but you lotion everything else. Put their sock and shoe back on. Make sure their barefoot never touches the floor, either the towel or the barrier only. And then put their shoe back on. Mouth care. Don't overthink this, guys. It's just brushing teeth, but your patient needs to be in a fully upright sitting position. So get the head of the bed all the way up. We're going to use a towel to protect their clothing. Wet the toothbrush first, put some toothpaste on it, and brush all areas. Doesn't matter how long. You don't have to do 2 whole minutes, but brush everything. Top, bottom, front, back, tongue. Then you'll let them rinse as much as they need. And dry them off after they rinse. That step gets missed a lot on the state exam. Make sure you're looking at your patient. Don't leave them a drippy, wet mess. So dry off their face and then just clean up. Respirations. We cannot tell our patient that we're counting their breathing. Remember that respirations are always reported over 1 minute. In and out counts as 1. Normal is between 12 and 20. We'll say start when we start counting, stop when we stop counting. And this is a documentation skill, so we have to document after hand washing. Range of motion. Remember, we do exercises to retain function. Remember, that means that whatever they got, we want to keep. We're not trying to improve anything. So we don't do the whole pain is gain thing. That's not us. That's not our role here. Flexion extension is up down. Abduction adduction is side to side. And rotation is around. And we're just going to follow the care plan. Care plan tells us what body part, what exercises, how many repetitions. Watch for pain. You don't want your patient to experience pain while you're doing this. All right. Any questions on all of that? We've covered a lot of stuff in the last 2 weeks, and we're not done. There are still a few things you have yet to learn, but only a few. Most of your learning is behind you. Like I said, there are a few new things we're going to learn, but most of the heavy stuff is behind you now. We're just going to use these same principles and recycle them over and over and over again into different skills. So if you go to page 80, we are going to learn range of motion of the hip, knee, and ankle. There are no new principles to learn here. No new principles to learn. We know everything we need to know to do this skill. There is a video for it. Somebody with your level of experience should be able to do this skill within 4 minutes or less. This is going to be done on a live patient. That person will be already in the bed at the beginning of the skill, and charting is not required. So nothing to learn. Let's take a look at the care plan at top page 81. Care plan says, provide the following range of motion exercise to the resident's right hip, knee, and ankle. Flexion extension. So remember, flexion extension was an up-down motion. It says provide 3 repetitions of each exercise, and the resident is not able to help with the exercises. You got step-by-step instructions there for you that walk you through exactly how to do it. But the hip is a 2-4-1 exercise. So what does that mean? Well, if you look at this, right, when we bend the hip and the knee like they're walking up steps, both areas get bent at the same time. So this is flexion. Okay, so we're flexing the hip and the knee at the same time. What you don't want to do is a straight leg raise. You don't want to bend the hip and keep the knee straight. When you do that, your patient probably isn't going to tolerate it. So this is not good. When you do this, there is a nerve that runs down from your spinal cord down the back of your leg. You can see it here. And that nerve that runs down the back of your leg is already pretty tight. Doesn't do a lot of sagging. When you bend the leg up like this at the hip and you keep that knee straight, it pulls that nerve super tight. And when you do that, that can cause lower back pain that radiates down the leg. You've probably heard the term sciatica. That's what that is. So we don't want to raise the leg up without bending the knee, because it just pulls that nerve super tight and irritates it. And patients with sciatica, when you trigger this pain can last for months because that nerve is super irritated now. Okay. So when we do this, we're going to bend the hip and the knee together, kind of like the patient's walking upstairs. Care plan says to do it 3 times. That's what we'll do. Now, when we're working on the ankle, we're going to lift that foot off of the bed just a little bit. Have our hand underneath the lower leg at the ankle area. And we're going to bend the foot forward and back like they're stepping on a gas pedal. But we don't want that heel to scrape against the sheets. That's why we have to lift the foot up just a little bit to keep that heel from scraping against the sheets as we do this exercise. So care plan, provide the following range of motion exercise to the resident's right hip, knee, and ankle, flexion, extension. Provide 3 repetitions of the exercise, and the resident is not able to help with exercises. So when we're doing range of motion, and there's 3 range of motion skills that we could be assigned: shoulder, hip, knee, and ankle, and elbow and wrist. When we're doing that, we need to make sure that we're following that care plan exactly, because that's really what they're grading us on here. So to do this skill, we're going to do our opening. We'll evaluate if we need gloves. We're going to support the extremity near the joints, lift from below with a flat palm, move slowly and smoothly all the way to start. Flexion, extension is up, down. Abduction, adduction is side to side. Rotation is around. And we're going to ask about pain and discomfort. All right. After that, we'll do all of the steps of the closing. Any questions? I'm going to show you the video for this one because it's got really good camera angles, and it will just make it a little bit easier for you to see.
Hello.
Hi, Mr. Jones. My name is Patty. I'm your CNA today. How are you?
Doing great. How about you?
Wonderful. I need to do some exercises on your right hip, knee, and ankle. Is that okay?
Yes.
I'm going to close your curtain. Let me go wash my hands, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to do all the work. All you have to do is let me know if there's any pain or discomfort as we do this, okay?
Okay.
The first exercise is going to bend your knee up to your chest and back down to the bed like you're climbing stairs.
Okay.
We'll do this 3 times.
Okay.
Please let me know if there's any pain.
All right.
I'm going to support under the knee and under the ankle, and we're going to lift and bend all the way up and all the way back down. Feel okay?
Yes.
We're going to do this again, all the way up and all the way back down. Still okay?
Yes.
One more. All the way up and all the way back down. Next exercise we're going to do will be on your ankle. I'm going to lift your foot off the bed, and we're going to bend forward and backward like you're stepping on a gas pedal.
Okay.
We'll do this 3 times.
Okay.
So I'm going to lift, and we'll bend forward and backward 1, forward and backward 2. Feel okay?
Yes.
And one more. Okay, any pain or discomfort?
No.
Is there anything else I can get for you while I'm here?
No.
Magazine, perhaps?
No, thank you.
Okay, let me get your call light for you, and I'm going to open the curtain.
All right, thank you.
Here's your call light. If you should need anything at all, please let me know.
Thank you.
I'm going to go wash my hands. After washing my hands, I'll review the steps of my skill, make any corrections, and tell the evaluator my skill is done. All right, any questions on range of motion? They give you 4 minutes. I did that entire skill in 2. So they give you plenty of time to do these skills. I don't want you rushing through them. But let's talk about that really quickly. Let's go to page 71. So there's actually a formula that they use to determine how much time you're going to be given to do your set of skills. So if you remember that in your skills book, you have all of the skills testing scenarios, and this is the classroom copy, right? So on page, I think it's 25 of your book, if I say that right, has all of the testing care plan scenarios. You'll see at the top like a little clock with a number in it. And I'm going to explain to you how they get that number. So let me have a number 1 to 11. Just give me a number, random, 1 to 11. Okay, 8, that's fine. 8. So let's go to care plan set 8. So the computer randomly picked this care plan set for you to perform. Let's go through it and see if we can figure out how much time we would have to do this care plan set. So on page 71, in the first column, you see a little grid there that has all of the times for every skill listed. So these are our 3 skills: feeding a resident who's in a chair, performing passive range of motion to the elbow and wrist, and assisting a resident needing to use a bedpan. Those are the skills we have to do for the test. So let's figure out how much time we have. So look on that list and see if you can tell me how much time you would have for feeding a resident. 9 minutes. Okay, so they would give you 9 minutes for feeding. What about passive range of motion? So any of the range of motions, how much time do we need? 4. So 9 plus 4 is 13. That's where we're at so far, 13 minutes. What about bedpan? 10. So we had 13 plus 10 is 23. So right now we're sitting at 23 minutes to do these 3 skills. Okay. But that's not all. They're also going to give you 3 minutes for hand washing. So we're going to add another 3 minutes in for hand washing. Hand washing doesn't come off of your skill time. They give you extra time for hand washing. So 23 plus 3 is 26. And then they're going to give you another 5 minutes on top of that for thinking time or transition time to go from one skill to the next skill to set up and things like that. So 5 minutes for that. So 26 plus 5 is 31. So to do these 3 skills, they're going to give you 31 minutes. Don't rush. The most important piece of information I can give you about the test is slow down. Because during the test, you're going to be super nervous. You just want it over with. You're going to go in and try to just rush through the skills and get done so you can get out because it's stressful. But that's when you make mistakes. I want you to stop at the end of every skill, read that care plan one more time, make sure you did exactly what that care plan told you to do, make any corrections you need to make before you end that skill to move to the next one. They give you 5 minutes to do that, guys. Take it. Don't be in a rush to get through. Okay? Good? All right. All right. So now we're going to move on to denture care. We went over mouth care last week. And we reviewed mouth care just a few minutes ago. Denture care is a whole lot like mouth care. In fact, it's mouth care with an extra step. So you already know how to do the mouth care part. What we have to learn about is the denture part. So let's talk about that. I got to find the dentures. Hold on. Okay. No new principles to learn. We know everything we need to learn to do this particular skill, but we're going to apply it in a slightly different way. So nothing to learn other than the skill-specific steps. If you go to page 97, you'll see all of the supplies at the bottom. This skill takes a lot of supplies. You're going to have to memorize those. And our care plan at the top of the page says a resident with dentures is sitting at an overbed table with their dentures in a denture cup. The resident denture needs to be brushed with toothpaste, and the resident needs mouth care. The denture is stored in a denture cup after cleaning. The resident is not able to provide their own mouth or denture care. So the thing that I want you to remember about this is that cleaning the dentures is only one step of denture care. You have to clean the mouth those dentures came out of too. Otherwise, it's like washing your clothes but not washing your body. Okay? Make sense? So this skill has two parts to it. We're going to clean the dentures, and then we're going to clean the mouth those dentures came out of. This goes really, really bad when you don't clean the mouth. Because denture paste, what holds dentures in, that denture paste is sticky and gummy and gooey. And it's going to trap food particles right up against the gums. Over time, those food particles are going to decay. And they're going to eat into the gums. And if nothing is there to stop it, that bacteria will just keep eating and eating and eating. And it can destroy their gums, their cheek, their tongue, everything. So getting that denture paste and those food particles off of the gums is super important. Okay, because it's way easier for bacteria to eat gums than it is for bacteria to eat teeth. Teeth are hard. They're like bone. It takes a long time for cavities to form. It does not take very long for sores to form because the gum is way less dense. Okay, good. Good. All right. So when we are doing denture care, we're going to clean both the dentures and the mouth. And there's a couple of different kinds of dentures. So we need to talk about this real quick. When we think about dentures, we usually think about something like this, right? A full plate. Something like this, where all of the teeth are replaced. Something like this. It is a real denture. All teeth are replaced. Don't handle dentures without gloves. Okay. Always have gloves on when you handle dentures. And dentures should always be stored in water. Now, apparently the students that were in here practicing did not remember that because none of my dentures are in water right now. Dentures have to be stored in water. Otherwise, they dry out and they become brittle. And they are much more likely to break. So please be careful with my dentures. And when you leave them, when you're practicing, when you leave them in water, please. Dentures must be stored in water. But that's what you see here. This is a full plate. Okay. All of the teeth were replaced. And that's kind of what we think about when we think about dentures. But that's not the only kind of denture. We also have something like this, a partial that looks like this. This is a partial. And you'll see cutouts for the patient's natural teeth that remain. If the patient still has healthy teeth, we're not going to pull healthy teeth. We're just going to get rid of the ones that aren't healthy and replace those with little cutouts for the teeth that remain. This is a partial. And then you've got another type of denture down here, which is called a bridge. A bridge just replaces one or two teeth in a short run. Bridges usually have two hooks on them to clip onto the surrounding teeth. These are usually held in by paste of some sort. Good? All right. So first, we're going to clean the dentures, and we need gloves for that. And then we're going to clean the mouth, and we need gloves for that. But if I were to do mouth care on you, would you want those gloves that were just handling that dirty denture in your mouth? No, it's pretty gross. So this skill is going to require 2 glove sets. One to clean the dentures, we'll get rid of that one, and one to clean the mouth. So there's two ways to clean dentures. The first is with toothbrush and toothpaste, and that's what we're most familiar with. But a lot of dentures, the people that make the dentures say, please don't do that, because dentures are not made out of the same material as your teeth. They're not bone. Your teeth actually kind of regenerate a little bit, okay? When you're brushing them, those micro cracks get filled in. When we are brushing dentures with toothpaste, toothpaste is abrasive. It has abrasive particles in it because that's how we're getting all that scum off of our teeth. But those abrasive particles can actually cause these little tiny itty bitty cracks to occur. And those cracks are warm, dark, moist. So we end up with bacteria. So a lot of patients will not want us to be brushing their dentures with toothpaste. Instead, we would just put them in a cup with some fizzy tablets, let them soak. Those fizzy tablets break up all of those protein particles, food particles, denture paste, and then you just rinse them off maybe with a soft brush and give them back to the patient. So how would we know which method to use? The care plan. Now, this care plan tells us to brush the dentures with toothpaste. So we're going to use this method. Oh, I'm glad you like it. We're going to use this method here. Okay. Good. We're going to use a very special kind of brush. This is our denture brush. It has two sides to it. This is a smaller side, and it's designed specifically to fit in this channel. If you try to use the bigger brush, it doesn't really fit in that channel very well. So you're not going to get all the denture paste. That's why this is shaped the way it is. It's designed to fit in that channel and get all of that denture paste out. This side looks like a toothbrush. We would use it on the tooth part to clean. Okay. This is a denture simulator. These are in the practice kits that I sell. So if you can't come in here and practice, remember that we have built-in practice time from here on out. If you don't practice this skill here, you probably want to get a practice kit to be able to practice these skills at home on the right supplies. Okay. So I'm going to pass this around so you can see how this part of the denture brush fits into the channel on the dentures. So you can see how that works. When it comes to cleaning the teeth, or the mouth that the dentures came out of, we're going to use something like this. Now, you can use a toothbrush. There's no problem with using a toothbrush, whatever your patient prefers. But that denture paste is going to get all caught up in the bristles of the toothbrush. And eventually, those bristles are just going to get so coated, they're not really going to be effective. This is a better option because these are solid surfaces. So we can actually swipe away that denture paste and food particles. So this is a better option. You can kind of turn it to get different surfaces. It doesn't gum up as easily. And these are disposable, so we just throw it away. We use this like a toothbrush. We get it wet, we put some toothpaste on it, and we use it in the mouth like a toothbrush. But it's disposable, and it does collect that denture paste a little bit better. So I'll pass that around for you. You can see it's soft and spongy. So everything that we use for mouth care and denture care, whether it's a toothbrush, a toothette, a denture brush, we're going to wet it first and then put toothpaste on it. We always wet brushes before we put toothpaste on it. That allows that toothpaste to spread around a little bit better. And then once we have toothpaste on it, we have to have a place to put it, right? A place for it to hang out until we're ready for it. Thank you. So we're going to use a basin just as a place for it to hang out. And that's this. This is an emesis basin. This is just a basin for it to hang out in. I can't set that denture brush on the surface of the sink. The sink is not clean. if I've got a denture brush and I just put it on the surface of the sink and it gets dirty, now I'm spreading all of those bacteria all over the patient's dentures that are going to go back in their mouth, and that's pretty gross. So we don't want to put the denture brush on the side of the sink. We want to put it in a basin or a container of some sort just to hold it until we're ready to use it, because we got some work to do here. When we get that denture brush ready and we put it in our basin and we go over to the sink, we still have to turn the water on. That means we have to have a paper towel for that. You also need to put something soft in the bottom of the sink, and that's going to provide a soft surface just in case those dentures should fall. If those dentures fall and hit the bottom of the sink, they're likely to break. And now your patient doesn't have dentures to eat with. The facility has to pay to replace them. And dentures are about $6,000. They're expensive. So if we go around dropping our patients' dentures and breaking them, we're probably not going to have a job for very long. So putting a washcloth in the bottom of the sink helps provide a softer surface. So if the dentures do fall, they're less likely to break. But if you can get that washcloth over the drain specifically, that causes the water to kind of pool up. And that way the dentures never hit the bottom of the sink. Good. We'll use a paper towel to turn the water on. And for dentures, we only use cold water, never hot. Heat coagulates proteins. All that means is that it makes whatever's on the dentures stickier and harder to remove. We don't want to make this harder on ourselves. We want to make this easy. So cold water. We always hold the dentures firmly as we clean them. We're going to wear gloves while we're handling dentures. You can handle the denture cup without gloves. This is fine. I can touch the cup without gloves. This is fine. But when it comes to touching the dentures, your patients do not want your bare hands on their dentures. You don't want your bare hands on their dentures. Nobody wants bare hands on dentures. Wear gloves. And remember, the very first thing our gloves should touch is the patient, or in this case, the teeth that came out of the patient's mouth. Okay. So we'll brush all surfaces. The palate, or the top, the arch, the top that goes against the roof of the mouth, the gum groove, the teeth, and the gum line. Be careful that you don't drop the dentures, but what they're looking for here is that all surfaces of that denture is coated in toothpaste. Don't set the denture down in the sink ever. Always keep them in your hand over the sink. And then once we're done cleaning the dentures, we're going to hold it in one hand, take the denture cup, rinse it out with the other hand, dump it out, and fill it up with cool, clean water. Remember I said that you have to have dentures in water. So we're going to fill that denture up with cool, clean water, and then we can put our clean dentures in the denture cup filled with cold water. Put the lid on. Now, if we go back and read that care plan real quick, it tells us that the dentures will be stored in a denture cup near the patient for later use. So we're not putting these dentures into the patient's mouth. Let me say that again. For the test, we don't put these dentures into the patient's mouth. We put them in the cup. The patient can put them in their mouth when they're ready. But that brings up a whole nother thing. CNAs do not take dentures out, and CNAs do not put dentures in. That is not a CNA task. When you take dentures out of somebody's mouth, you can actually dislocate their jaw because you're putting downward pressure on the jaw to pop the denture up in the back. Like if I'm going to take my own dentures out, I would have to put my fingers all the way in the back, way back here at the joint, and pop them up and forward to get them to dislodge. Remember, they're being held in by paste. That means that I have to put downward pressure on my jaw. Well, I'll never dislocate my own jaw because I'll stop before it ever gets to that point. Okay. But if I put my fingers in your mouth to dislocate your dentures, these knuckles right here, these first knuckles are going to press down in order for my fingertips to press up. I have to have leverage. Well, those finger knuckles pressing down can dislocate your patient's jaw. Patients have to be able to take their own dentures out. If they can't take their own dentures out, They don't use their dentures, and we just puree their food. We chop it up really fine so they don't have to chew. But we do not take patients' dentures out. We also don't put them in. Now, the reason you don't put them in is because when you put dentures in, your patient will automatically bite down to seat those dentures. It is a reflex action. They can't control it. They can't help it. But when you put patients' dentures in, where are your fingers? When they're biting down, you are likely to get bit. And your patient may not even really realize it because those dentures aren't fully seated yet. So they just bite down harder. So CNAs do not put dentures in. We do not take dentures out. Your patient has to be able to do that themselves. Okay, good. All right. So you're sitting, or your patient is sitting in a chair at an overbed table with their dentures already in a denture cup at the beginning of this skill. Your job is to take that cup over to the sink, clean the dentures, bring it back and put it on the table for later use. And then clean the mouth those dentures came out of. That's all we're doing here. But after we're done cleaning the dentures, when we've refilled that cup with cold water and we put the lid back on it, and we're going to bring it back over here to the table, we don't want that denture cup, which is now wet, to warp the wood of the table. So when we bring the denture cup back, we're going to put it on a paper towel, which is nothing more than a coaster, to absorb water so that it doesn't leave a ring on our surfaces. Okay. We'll wring out that wet washcloth, put it in the hamper, and now we're ready for mouth care. We want to remove those gloves. You can bring that denture brush and the basin back over to the patient with gloves on. That's fine. We're going to use that basin in a second. They've got to have a place to spit after mouth care. We're going to take the denture brush out, put it on our barrier, and then we can remove our gloves. After we've removed our gloves, we're going to wet the toothette, put some toothpaste on it. Again, it's going to just hang out in the basin until we're ready to use it. Put a towel on the patient, and now we're ready to put our gloves on for part 2. Part 2, you're just going to brush whatever's there. Top, bottom, front, back, tongue. After brushing, let them rinse and spit, leave their mouth clean and dry, and then clean up everything in your environment. Put all of your washcloths and towels and everything away, throw your trash away, clean your basin and store it. Basically all the cleanup, remove your gloves, and do your closing. Remember that this is part of the practice kit. Our practice kit has the denture simulator, the denture cup, everything that you need to practice. Gait belt, we're going to talk about that today too. And these are things you probably don't have hanging out at home. All right, so let me show you this particular skill. I'm not going to brush anybody's teeth in here today.
Hello.
Hi, Mr. Jones. My name is Patty. I'm your CNA today. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Wonderful. I need to do denture care on you. Is that okay?
Yes.
I'm going to take your dentures to the sink. I'm going to close the privacy curtain and wash my hands. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Jones. I'm going to place a barrier on the table so we have a clean area to place the clean supplies. And then I'll gather the supplies that I need. We'll need a cup of water, a toothette, a denture brush, toothpaste, a basin, a washcloth and a towel, and 2 sets of gloves. Okay, we're going to get the denture brush ready for use, so I'll wet it and apply a little bit of toothpaste to both sides. We'll allow the basin to hold that denture brush until we're ready to use it. I'll be right back, Mr. Jones. I'm going to go clean your dentures.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Jones, I'm just going to set your dentures over here so that you have them if you should need them later.
Okay.
I'll place the denture brush on the barrier, and now we'll remove these gloves. And we'll throw those away. Do you mind if I place a towel over your chest?
That's fine.
This will help keep your clothing clean.
Thank you.
We're going to prepare for the mouth care portion of this skill. We'll take the toothette and wet it. Apply a little bit of toothpaste to one area of the toothette and apply gloves. Okay, Mr. Jones, I'm going to brush all surfaces of your teeth now. So in a moment, I'll need you to open your mouth wide so that I can reach the back teeth.
Okay.
Okay, can you open your mouth? Thank you. I'm going to brush the back on the bottom and on the top, both sides. Okay, can you bring your teeth together, please? Thank you very much. We're going to throw the toothette away. And would you like to rinse? Very good. Would you like another rinse?
Yes, please.
Another rinse?
No, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to remove your towel and we'll place this in dirty linen. We'll throw away the disposables. And now I'm going to clean your basin. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'll place the denture brush and the toothpaste in the basin and open the drawer with a paper towel to store the basin and other supplies. I'll remove the barrier from the table and we'll throw this away as well. Now I can remove my gloves. Mr. Jones, are you comfortable?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I get you a magazine?
No, thank you.
Is there anything else that you need?
No, thank you.
Your call light's right there. If you should need anything, just let me know. I'm going to open your curtain and go wash my hands.
Thank you.
After washing my hands, I'll think about the steps of my skill, make any corrections, and then tell the evaluator my skill is done. All right. Alessandra says, I thought due to storm class would have been canceled. No, we're still here. I figured that most of you guys that weren't able to make it to class could at least tune in so you're not missing anything. All right. Let me see here. Let's go ahead and stop here and take a break. The next two skills I have to talk to you about, there's a little bit of lecture that goes in front of each one. So let's go ahead and take our break. And then when we get back, we'll finish up the skills for today. You should have about an hour or so of practice built into today's class. Okay. Go ahead and take your break. when you guys leave, make sure you go out the Pizza Hut way. Don't go the other way because the water's getting really deep. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about energy conservation and why we should care. This is going to be on page 63 of your book. This is an important concept because you're not going to think about this issue on your own, usually. So let's give you a little bit different perspective. I apologize, guys. I've got a cramp in my back that just will not let up. And I'm going to get in some weird positions here just to get it to loosen up. All right. So you'll see a graph there in the middle of page 63. And this is kind of expanding on that graph. So have you ever seen our 2-year-old? I love 2-year-olds. They're amazing. They are probably the most interesting creatures on the planet because they have no filters. And they have an amazing imagination. But they also have an abundance of energy. Have you ever tried to explain to a 2-year-old why you do not have the energy they do? I'm tired. I can't do that. I don't want to play. Let's sit down and read a book. Let's watch a movie, right? Do they ever get it? Yeah, why? Yeah, because they have only experienced their energy level. They think everybody on the planet has the same amount of energy they do because they've never experienced anything different. Now, interestingly enough, that is your peak of energy. It's when you're 2. That's when you peak energy levels. Now, you still have a lot of energy in your lifetime, but it truly does peak at 2. And let me explain. Let's go out to 12. 12-year-olds still have a ton of energy. They can roller skate and skateboard and play basketball and video games and still run big circles around me. Still tons of energy. But you put that 12-year-old in charge of that 2-year-old for one afternoon, who wins? 2-year-old every time. So that tells you right there that energy levels have declined from 2 to 12. Let's go up to 22. Now, 22-year-olds have tons of energy. They can shop till they drop and still go out at night looking fabulous. But they still don't have the same energy levels they had when they were 12. Energy levels have dropped further. Let's go up to 42. Now, 42-year-olds are going to shop till they drop, but that's at like 3. We're going home. We're not going out tonight. In fact, I'm grabbing a pizza on the way home. Go out to 62. 62-year-olds, now we're talking about retirement because it's really hard to keep up with my day-to-day household activities and work at the same time because I don't have enough energy for all of that. Maybe I'm putting my feet up for 10 minutes before I make dinner, going to bed a little earlier, where energy levels are starting to show in big ways around 62. Now, what do you think energy levels are going to be like at 82? Almost non-existent. Does that make sense? Now, remember that this is an average, right? I've known some 90-year-olds that'll run circles around you. In fact, my best friend's husband's grandma, I know it's kind of a stretch, she drove. She was in her 90s. She drove. She went to all kinds of community events. She babysat her great-grandson. She did all of the cooking and the cleaning in the house. I mean, she was amazing. So there are outliers. But this is, generally speaking, our energy graph as we age. Now, remember you trying to explain to that 2-year-old why you didn't have the energy the 2-year-old had? You guys remember that? Didn't get you very far? Yeah. When you're taking care of her, she's going to try to tell you, oh, honey, I don't have the energy for that. And you, like that 2-year-old, are going to say, why not? Because you haven't experienced that. You have no idea how little energy she actually has. And in your mind, you're doing it all anyway. All you have to do is sit there. I'll bathe you. I'll clean you. I'll feed you. All you got to do is sit there. But even sitting there takes energy. And that's what she's trying to tell you, is she doesn't have the energy for that. So it's important that we not argue with our patients, especially older patients. When they say, I don't have the energy for that, we've got to believe them. Good? Make sense? You probably aren't aware of this. And it's probably not something that you would really think about on your own unless somebody points it out to you. But let's think about this lady for a second, right? She's got nothing to do and all day to do it because she's not working. She's not really doing much of anything. So why should we be concerned about her energy? And that's what today's lecture is about, energy conservation. So let's think about all the things that we do on a daily basis that requires energy. So certainly getting out of bed requires energy. That's probably like half of my energy every day. I like my bed. It's comfortable. Eating takes energy. Have you ever been too tired to eat? Well, if you've ever been too tired to whatever, that means that whatever takes energy. Have you ever been too tired to talk? That takes energy. Certainly bathing, dressing, grooming, all of that takes energy, right? Now, remember, let's go back one slide. Remember, she's only got this much energy to get through her entire day. That's it. That's all you can't, I don't care what 5-hour energy tells you, you cannot go to the store and buy more energy. Okay. This is it. That's all she's got. So when we look at this list and we see all the things that she's going to have to do with that energy, we start to realize that, okay, wait, there might be a problem somewhere in our day. So let's talk about that for just a second, why this would be a problem, because there's a whole lot of things on this that aren't on this list that take energy. Things like breathing takes energy. Digestion takes energy. Depression takes energy. And a good portion of your patients will probably be depressed because this was not what they had in mind for their retirement. How many of you guys have ever thought about retiring, right? Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to retire because I'm going to sit on a beach drinking fruity drinks and life is going to be grand because I won't have to work anymore. Anybody ever have that dream? Very common, right? Okay, when you look at your patients in those nursing homes and assisted living facilities and hospitals, is that what their retirement dream was? No. They wanted to be the person on the beach drinking the fruity drinks, right? That was their retirement dream too, but now they're stuck in this nursing home. Do you think that that might be a bit depressing for them? Especially when you realize that they had to sell everything they own to get that nursing home paid So they work all of their lives to accumulate all of this stuff, and then they have to sell it all and move into a place they don't want to be. Do you think that might cause a little depression? Maybe a little anger, frustration? Very common. So all of these things are going to take energy from the patient. So we have to start thinking about, okay, well, if all of this takes energy plus things that we don't even think about, like breathing and digestion and muscle activity and even depression, then, and our patient only has this much energy to work with, we could eventually run out of energy in the day. So we have to start thinking about our patients' habits, because they're going to play into this a little bit. How many of you guys are early morning people? You like to get up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. You like to watch the sunrise. Do I have any early morning people in here? Yep. Okay. All right. Do I have any midday people? You like, you're super productive like around noon. And it's kind of like where you come to life. 10, 11, 12 o'clock. Do I have any late afternoon people here? Like 3, 4 when you come alive? Any night owls? Yeah, any night owls? I am a night owl. I am absolutely, in fact, most of my career, I work nights. I function much better at night. That's when my mind is clear. My mind actually kind of wakes up around 4 or 5. And I'm much more creative around 9, 10, 11 o'clock. That's just how my circadian rhythm works, right? So if we have a patient that only has this much energy, and we have to get through the basics every day, bathing, dressing, grooming, toileting, feeding, and they are not morning people, okay? They are not morning people. And we try to get them into the shower at 5 a.m. because that's what works better for our schedule. Do you know what your patient's going to say? I don't have the energy for that. Or they're just going to flat out say, no, go away. Now, we're going to look at that and say, oh, you're non-compliant. Are they really non-compliant? We're just not working with their energy rhythms. So it's kind of important that we get to know our patients a little bit and find out who they are and what makes them tick. You wake me up at 4 a.m., good luck. Good luck. I got 2 little puppies, right? One's a year old. One is 5 months old. They're rambunctious. They're adorable. They are my heart and soul. I love them dearly. And they sleep with us every night. Now, around 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, they have to go out. And they might try to wake me up. They don't get very far because that's not my circadian rhythm. So they wake my husband up. And he is an early morning person, so that works out. But occasionally he'll gripe a little bit. You know, why am I always the one that gets up with the puppies? Because they can't wake me up. I am dead to the world. That is my rhythm. But I'll do the late night ones. I'm already up. Right? Make sense? So we have to learn our patients a little bit. This isn't as simple as assuming that everybody operates on the same schedule we do. We have to learn our patients, but we also need to start grouping our activities in times that are more suited to our patients' individual energy levels. So if you have a patient who you're scheduled to shower at 5 a.m. and they say no, you need to find out a little bit more about their daily schedule before they came in here. Were they a night shower person? If they are the type of person that takes a shower before bed, that relaxes them, gets them ready to sleep, and you're trying to shower them in the morning, that's not going to work out real well. So when your patients say no, try to get a little bit more information out of them. But there's more to energy than that. Have you ever seen an old person try to get up out of a chair? Right. An old person will do something like this. Nope. No. Right? How much energy did that take? Oh my gosh, it took a ton of energy because not only am I rocking back and forth, I had to get up twice, right? So that took a whole lot of energy. Now remember, we only have this much to work with. That's it. That took much more energy than if I had just stood up. Okay. So what we have to understand is that there is an inverse relationship between strength and effort. Effort's another word for energy. As our strength goes down, effort has to go up. It means we're using more energy to do simple tasks. This is where CNAs come in. Because as we age and our strength goes down, effort has to go up. We don't have that much energy. We now need help. That's where CNAs come in. And that's why we need to understand this. Because if we approach our patients like, you can do everything yourself, you're just being lazy, that's not really understanding our role in this. Okay. Make sense? Good. So remember that took that much energy, right? All of that rocking and getting up a couple of times. So let's think for a second about how many times a patient gets up out of a chair every single day. First of all, they have to get out of bed. And then they have to get, let's say that they do morning showers. Okay, a couple times a week. They have to get to the bathroom, get undressed, that takes energy. Sit down in the shower chair, that takes energy. Shower, that takes energy. Dry off, that takes energy. Stand up, that takes energy. Get dressed, that takes energy. Brush your hair, brush your teeth, that takes energy. And then get to a chair to finally sit down, right? And then after an hour, they're going to have to go to the bathroom. So get up out of the chair again. And then they come back to the chair, and then it's time for activities. So they go get up out of the chair, go to the activity room, and come back and sit down. And then it's time for lunch. They have to get up and go to lunch and sit down at lunch, and then they have to get up and go back to their room and sit down in their room. And then there's a show on in the activity room, so they have to get up from their room and go to the activity room and sit down in the activity room, and then get up and go to dinner and sit down. And then they have to get up from dinner and go back to their room. And we haven't even talked about all the toiletings in between. Now, remember how much energy it took just for me to get out of the chair once, and I'm doing it about 15 to 20 times a day. I've only got this much energy. That's it. And you're expecting me to do all of that with this much energy. And we haven't even done anything exciting. This is just day-to-day living. Okay. Starting to see how your patient's energy levels might be affected by this. So when we get to the end of the day, your patient probably isn't going to have the energy to eat. They're just flat out of energy. So this is why a lot of our older patients don't eat large meals in the evening. They eat their larger meal during the day. So if we don't eat dinner tonight, if we're just too tired, what do you think that's going to do to tomorrow's energy levels? It's going to decrease. That's right. So they may not get up out of the chair as often, which is going to lead to circulation problems and possible sores. Well, sores require energy to heal. So what does that do to our energy levels? Decreases them. And this starts this negative downward spiral where your patient can actually develop a failure to thrive scenario. all because they used up their energy. So the question is, how can we help them? How can we interrupt this cycle to make it a little bit easier for our patients to conserve their energy? Remember I said that there's an inverse relationship between strength and effort. When strength goes down, effort has to increase. So if we help our patients get up out of the chair using our strength to help offset theirs, it conserves some of their energy. Okay, makes sense? That's what this skill is all about. This skill is about learning processes to be able to use our strength to help offset their energy deficiency. And we're going to do this by assisting the patient to stand and using a gait belt to help them walk. This isn't about unsteadiness. A lot of students think we use a gait belt for unsteadiness. If the patient is unsteady, that gait belt does not help them at all. In fact, it provides another opportunity for them to get hurt. The patient is unsteady on their feet, they really need a walker to help steady them. Okay, gait belt isn't about unsteady. It's about giving them our strength. Now, we used to just grab them at the back of the arms and lift them out of the chair. But when you do that, if I'm sitting here in this chair and you grab the back of my arms, what you're lifting is the top part of my body. Most of my weight is in the lower part of my body. You're not lifting there, you're lifting here, which means you have to dig in and use more force to lift because this is trailing behind. Does that make sense? So that's not a good scenario because now you're leaving bruises. It's causing you more effort. It's just not a good scenario. So we never lift somebody from the arms. Somewhere along the line, somebody says, we probably ought to start lifting from the center of gravity where most of their weight is around their waist. So they would grab their pants and lift the patient. Anybody ever have a wedgie? That's what we're doing. Man, those people move quick. But they're moving because we're giving them a monster wedgie. Not because we're helping them. That's where the gait belt comes in. The gait belt is going to be put around their waist, snug, so we can use the gait belt to lift them without giving them a wedgie and without bruising them. Okay, good. Sometimes, though, your patients will get a little further down the hallway or to the bathroom or whatever, and they may get very weak, very dizzy, very something, and they are now a fall risk. That is what the gait belt is there for, because when you're walking your patient, you're going to be behind and to one side of your patient, and you're going to hold that gait belt in an underhand grip like this. And as they're walking, your entire focus should be on that patient, not on your watch, not on your phone, not talking to another CNA down the hallway, the patient. I've had a lot of CNAs over my career say, I don't know what happened. We were walking and then they were on the floor. I have no idea what happened. Well, you don't know what happened because you weren't watching the patient. That's your whole role here when you're walking somebody, is to watch the patient. So if they get pale or sweaty, or they start to wobble a little bit, if they slow down, if they put a hand out against the wall or one to their head or their stomach, all of those are signs that your patient is having a problem. Okay, so our focus needs to be on the patient. By holding that gait belt, I can feel when they get unsteady. I can feel when they slow down. I can feel what's happening with their body. My eyes are going to tell me the rest of it. Good. Now, if somebody is showing me signs that they're decompensating, that something is going wrong here, your first reaction, your first impulse is probably going to be hurry them back to the chair. Safety. If they're not tolerating a slow walk, what makes you think they're going to tolerate a hurry? They're not going to. And that is probably the number one mistake that CNAs make when they're walking a patient. When your patient starts to decompensate, showing signs that things are not right, your responsibility is not to get them back to that chair. It's to get them in a safe position. So to do that, we're going to lower them to the floor using our body. Remember that gait belt? I've got my hand on the gait belt. I pull them back toward me, lean them against my body, and just slide them to the floor, telling them what I'm doing. Because a patient that's sitting on the floor can't fall on the floor. And falls are where we get breaks. Good. So we would get the patient safely on the floor, and then we have somebody go get a nurse. And then we let them know they got very wobbly. We got them sitting on the floor. The nurse will assess the patient and figure out what the next step is from there. But if you turn the patient around and you're like, okay, let's hurry back to the chair. Hurry, 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 hurry. Before you pass out, before you fall, they're not going to make it. And that's when CNAs go, I don't know what happened. They just fell on the floor. No, they didn't. Okay, good. Questions on that? So if you had a test question that said you are walking a patient to the bathroom with a gait belt, and the patient slows down, becomes pale and sweaty, and puts a hand to their head, what is your next action? Okay, so your answer would be assist them to sit on the floor and get help. Your other answer, other options would be rush them back to the chair, go get a wheelchair for the patient. Should we ever leave a patient when they're like that? No. Or feed the patient a snack. Okay. Good. You're starting to see how the state test questions are going to be presented. Now, if you didn't know that, your answer would probably be to rush them back to the chair. And that's what they're looking for, is if you know that that is an unsafe action. Okay, good. Questions? All right. So, ambulate with a gait belt is what we're going to concentrate on now. So on page 66, you've got all of our test-specific steps, which we're going to get to in just a minute. You've got all the principles that dictate this skill. You've got a video, short version. And then down here, you have your test-specific information. This skill should take somebody with your level of experience 5 minutes or less. Patient is going to be a live student. They're going to be sitting in a chair. Charting is not required for this skill. And in order to learn this, we have to learn the rest of shoe rules. Now, we've already learned if the patient's feet hit the floor, we talk about their shoes. And we already learned that slipper socks are not enough. We talked about that with foot care. We've got a few other things here that we're going to talk about before we learn this skill. So one of those is how to apply the gait belt properly. This skill requires shoes, which your patient already has on, and a gait belt. Here's our care plan at the top of the page. It says ambulate the resident at least 10 steps. How far? 10 steps. So that's 5 steps in one direction and 5 steps back. Not very far. For the test, they're going to give you a destination. For the test, they would say, walk the patient to the desk and back, or walk the patient to the camera and back, or walk the patient to the archway back. They're going to give you a destination. And that's just to make it a little bit easier. But this skill, they throw you a curveball. And when they give you that destination, they're doing it on purpose because it's part of the curveball. So let me explain. let's say that you're testing and they tell you, okay, I want you to walk the patient to the, yeah. There we go. Okay, so let's say they tell you to walk the patient to the desk and back. Well, when they do that, they're going to put something like that in your way, legitimately in your path. And it's going to be very obvious that it's in your path. What they're seeing is, what are you going to do with an obstacle that is obviously in your path of travel? Are you going to wait till you stand the patient up and start walking before you move it? Or are you going to move it before you stand the patient? And this is a checkpoint. So you have to remove the obstacles before you stand the patient up. Because where should your focus be? On the patient. And that's how they're grading that your focus is on the patient. Does that make sense? So when you're doing this skill, there's going to be an obstacle, usually a rolling table in your way. It may be a chair, though, in your way, very obviously in your way. And they're making sure that you move that before you get the patient into a standing position. Doesn't matter when you do it, as long as it's before you stand the patient. Okay, good. All right. Okay, so when we're going to use a gait belt, there's some rules that we have to follow for putting a gait belt on the patient, making sure that it's snug enough, and removing it properly and holding it when we lift the patient and walk with them. So let's talk about the gait belt. A gait belt is a flat canvas belt. It's going to be on the supply shelf, just like this. This is a gait belt. It is a flat canvas belt with a metal buckle. Also has a free end. When you put this around the patient's waist, it does not go around your waist. Now, you can carry it there. You can put it around your waist just to have it, you know, readily available. But it's not used around your waist. You'll see a lot of CNAs that wear it just to have it on them because putting it in your pocket's a little bulky. When you put this around the patient's waist, it does not matter whether the buckle faces this way or the buckle faces this way. Nobody cares. It's the tag has to be on the inside, like every other article of clothing. So when you put this around the patient's waist, you want to put it around so that the canvas is flat and it's not twisted. You want it to be flat all the way around. You're going to put the free end through the first guard by the alligator teeth, just like this. Free end through the first guard by the alligator teeth. Now, those teeth tell you which direction to pull. If I try to pull this way, it's not going to do anything. I have to pull this way, the way the teeth are pointing. All the teeth are pointing that way. I'm going to pull it that way. And you want this snug. It has to be around the patient's natural waist, and you want it snug. You should only be able to fit 4 fingers between the belt and the patient. And you have to check that during the test. They need to see you put 4 fingers between the belt and the patient. Now, once you get it snug enough, we have to lock it in. So we put that free end through the second guard here, and that locks it in. So it doesn't matter what I do with this belt, it's not going to move. If this tail is too long and in your way, you just tuck it up inside the belt like this just to get it out of the way. Or you can, if it's short, you can leave it hanging. Either way is fine. You just don't want it so long on you little people. You don't want it so long that you're stepping on it or it becomes a tripping hazard for your patient. So you can tuck it up to get it out of the way. Good. To remove a gait belt, we release it from the second guard. Now to get it off of here, you're going to hold the free end steady and you move the buckle along the belt. Okay. So when you put it on, you pull the belt. When you take it off, you pull the buckle and we remove it. Now, when we remove it, we don't slide it against the skin. Listen to this. You hear that? That is going to cause a burn on the patient's skin. It could actually tear the skin. So we don't pull it against the skin. We either loop it over the head, keeping hold of the buckle so it doesn't hit him in the head, or you can reach around the back to grab both sides, but we never slide it against the skin. Okay? Good. So the gait belts are applied around the patient's waist. They must be snug. We're going to check with 4 fingers, and the test needs to see that. 4 fingers. Their feet must be flat on the floor before standing. I'm going to show you this for me. I don't know if you guys at home probably can't see this. But if I sit here, you'll take my word for it. If I sit here in this chair and I scoot back so my hips are all the way back against the chair, my feet do not touch the floor. My toes do. But my feet are not flat on the floor. I have short legs. So if you try to lift me to a standing position from this position, I'm trying to stand on the tips of my toes. What do you think that's going to do? Yeah, I'm going to fall every time because I'm now being pulled off balance. I'm being pulled top heavy. So if you were going to lift me, help me to stand, you need to get me to scoot forward so that my feet are flat on the floor before you stand me up. For the test, you actually need to address this. You need to say, are your feet flat on the floor? I see your feet are flat on the floor. You need to acknowledge that somehow. Okay? Good? You have to verbally check that. And that goes to if the patient's feet hit the floor, we talk about their shoes. Same thing. Are your shoes flat on the floor? Now, when we go to lift a patient, we need them to be a partner. They're going to put their weight on their legs. If they're not ready for it, their legs are going to give out. So we want to count to 3. 1, 2, 3, and then lift. That makes your patient a partner in all of this. So, Dana, we're going to talk about that in just a minute. We're going to stand at an oblique angle for better stability. It used to be years ago, we used to teach people to stand right in front of the patient, toe to toe, knee to knee, and lift them towards you. There is a physics principle here. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So if I'm standing in front of a patient and I am lifting them toward me, let's say the patient's 150 pounds, and I'm lifting them toward me, I have 150 pounds of pressure that is forcing me backwards because remember, equal and opposite reaction. So as something is coming toward me, I have to bend backwards with the same amount of force. That's 150 pounds of force that my lower back is trying to absorb. Doesn't take long to realize that eventually your back is going to give out because you're wearing it out. It's also not safe because as I go over backwards, I'm pulling the patient over backwards and we're much more likely to fall. Okay. There's a better way to do this. If we stand at an oblique angle at our patient's side. So if you look at this chair, if you look at the floor, I've got those little tiles for those of you at home. You can see there's a line in front of the chair and a line on each side. So this chair is literally in a box. I can use that box for my feet. So if I've got a patient sitting in the chair, I'm going to put this foot across in front of their feet. That means their feet can't slide out. I'm going to put this foot parallel to the chair. So I am standing at the corner of that box with one foot on each side. And when I go to lift, I'm going to bend at the knees, not the hips. I'm going to lift the patient to a standing position. And when I do that, I'm much more stable. They're not going to pull me off balance. So we're not going to fall. and I'm not wrecking my back to do the lift. So an oblique angle is super important. So we've got the gait belt in place. We've got feet flat on the floor. We've got shoes on. We check to make sure that gait belt is tight enough using 4 fingers. We're at an oblique angle. We're going to hold the gait belt around the sides or in the back. And we're going to ask our patient to put their hands on our shoulders. Just rest them there, not around the neck. Just lay your hands on my shoulders. That way they move as a unit. If you don't have them put their hands on your shoulders, oh, I have to find that for you. Their shoulders will actually kind of trail backwards as you pull from their middle, and this gets them off balance and much more likely to fall. Once we get them standing up, I've got a picture for that. I'll show you in a minute. Once we get them standing up, we want to ask if they're dizzy. I need to know that here, not there. Because if I wait till I get all the way over there and say, hey, how you feeling? And they say, oh, I'm dizzy. What's my exit strategy here? The only one I have is get them on the floor. I'd really rather not do that. So let's ask here. I stand them up. How are you feeling? Oh, I'm dizzy. Sit down. We're not walking today. We're going to go find a nurse. That's beyond my pay grade. Good. When we ask our patient to sit, they have to know that chair is behind them. So we're going to ask them to back up until they feel that chair behind their legs. Don't ask them to trust you. If you get me, let me show you here. So if you get me to right here, there's a gap, right? I can't feel that chair behind me. If you get me to right here and you say, okay, sit, when I go to sit, my body is automatically going to resist because my body has no idea whether that chair is going to catch me or not. So if you're trying to sit me down and my body is resisting, one of us is going to fall. If I back up and I can feel that chair and you ask me to sit, my body will relax and sit. Okay. So we're going to use proper body mechanics when we lift. We'll lift or bend at the knees, not at the waist. And as we do this, we're going to remove obstacles before we stand and walk the patient. Now, it doesn't matter when you do this. If you want to do this during the opening. Hi, Miss Jones. My name is Patty. I'm your CNA today. I'm here to take you for a walk. Does that sound okay? I'm going to close your curtain, go wash my hands. And before I go wash my hands, I'll just take that and move it out of the way. Or you can wash your hands and come back and see it's in the way and move it then. It doesn't matter. As long as you move that before you stand the patient up. Doesn't matter when you move it, as long as you move it before you stand the patient up. So that takes care of Dana's question. So yes, you can wash your hands first, or you can remove the object first. Me personally, I'm going to move the object before I wash my hands. Number one, right. I want to touch the patient with clean hands. But number two, by the time I'm done washing my hands and I come back over, I may forget to look for it. Right? Because now I'm focused on the patient and my skill. So as soon as you see it, just get it done. I don't know why I have to tell you this, but I do. I've had several evaluators tell me recently that they have seen students asking patients to lift their shirts up to put the gait belt around their waist. Gait belts go over clothing, not against skin. So be careful with that. Make sure it's over the clothing and make sure it's around the patient's waist. I'll tell you a story about that one. So we were a testing center for many years, and the evaluators, I was not an evaluator because I am a trainer. I'm very good at training. Evaluating is hard for me because I want to tell you what you did wrong and they can't. Okay. So I don't make a good evaluator. I'm not good at just saying no and not elaborating on it. The evaluator comes out and she says, oh my gosh, I got to tell you about this one. I said, okay. So she said, student had ambulate, patient sitting in the chair, and the candidate clearly had no idea about ambulate, had never seen a gait belt, didn't know how to use it, didn't know anything. And she comes in, and first she puts the gait belt around her waist. Took her a while to figure out the buckle. So she put it around her waist and asked the patient to hold on to the belt as she stood up. And she says, I was about to do a safety stop because it's a safety, that's not safe for the patient, when she stopped herself and said, no, that's not right. She took the gait belt. Remember, you can make corrections. Took the gait belt off of her and put it around the patient's chest to lift the patient. But she was really struggling. And so then she thought, maybe that's not right. So then she stood the patient up without the gait belt, was trying to figure out how to get it around both of them. And that's when the evaluator stopped her. So this is somebody who has no idea where the gait belt goes and how to use it. Guys, this skill is not a hard skill. It's really not. As long as you have some basic understanding of how these things work. Okay. Now here you've got the gait belt to practice, and I would strongly recommend that you practice with the gait belt, at least putting it on and taking it off and lifting a patient, because you're going to have to use this in the test if you get this skill. And if you don't know how to use a gait belt, it can really cause a lot of anxiety in you. So you've got it here. It's on the supply shelf. Use it, practice with it. If you're not practicing here, get a practice kit because we have the gait belts in there. So at least you've got it to be able to practice with. But you need to be practicing these skills with the right supplies. So gait belts go over the patient's clothing. We're going to hold the gait belt around the back or sides to lift, not the front. And we're going to lift with their hands on your shoulders. Do you see how her upper body is trailing backwards? This is going to put more strain on you, but it also increases the likelihood that they're going to fall. This screenshot was actually taken from another training video on YouTube. So there is, if you go look, you can find this. This is incorrect technique. So make sure when you're watching videos getting ready to test that the videos are complying to your clinical skills checklist for Prometric. This does not. So be careful about the resources that you use. We're going to let the patient lead. We'll walk slightly behind and one side, holding that gait belt in an underhand grip. We're going to ask if they're dizzy before we walk and throughout the skill. And then at the end of the skill, we're going to help the patient sit by using that same body mechanics, oblique angle, their hands on your shoulders, gait belt around the back, and help them to sit. And then we can remove the gait belt, not sliding it against their skin. We'll make sure that they're properly seated before we end the skill. So we're going to check that body position. And then we can put our gait belt away, do our closing, wash our hands, and tell the evaluator our skill is done. So this skill only takes 5 minutes, maybe, not even. So if I can get a volunteer, somebody to come sit in this chair for me, I'll show you this skill. Somebody, anybody? Thank you. I can show you the video for it, but I'd rather do it live. Now, I do have the gait belt here. Normally, it would be on the supply shelf, but I'm just going to leave it here for the sake of speed. Here we go. Hi, Miss Jones. My name is Patty. I'm your CNA today. How are you? Good. Do you feel like going for a little walk? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go close your curtain, wash my hands, get my supplies, and I'll be right back. Now, for the test, the chair would be much closer to the bed so that she would be able to reach the call light at the end of the skill. Here, I've got it out a little bit just because of the taping. Okay. All right. So I have clean hands. Okay, Miss Jones, do your shoes fit well? Good. And are your feet flat on the floor? Awesome. I'm going to put this gait belt around your waist. This is just going to help me lift you to a standing position and provide a little stability while we're walking, okay? So can I get you to lean forward? Okay. And relax. So I'm going to put this through the first guard by the alligator teeth. We're going to, there we go, cinch it until it's snug. I'm going to check it with 4 fingers. Lock it in place. And just tuck that tail out of the way. All right, can you bring your feet together for me? In just a moment, I'm going to ask you to put your hands on my shoulders. There's an obstacle in my way. So before we stand, let me move that obstacle. Okay. So you can do that at any time as long as it's before you lift the patient to a standing position. You guys see how I did that? Okay. All right. So you're going to put your hands on my shoulders. On the count of 3, we're going to stand up and just stand there for just a second, okay? 1 foot in front, 1 foot beside. Go ahead and put your hands up here. And on the count of 3, we're going to stand. 1, 2, 3. Feel okay? Do you see that stability? Are you dizzy?
Mm.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to walk to the camera at your pace. Very good. Feeling okay? All right, and go ahead and turn around. And we'll walk back to the chair at your pace. Good. Okay, go ahead and turn back around. And back up until you can feel that chair. Feel the chair behind you?
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to put your hands back up here for me. And on the count of 3, we're going to sit. 1, 2, 3. Very good. Okay, I'm just going to remove the gait belt. Remember, when you remove it, you're going to hold the free end and work the buckle. Slide the buckle. Okay, go ahead and lift your arms up for me. There we go. Are you comfortable? Is there anything else I can get for you while I'm here?
No.
Okay, is your hips are far back? Good. We will pretend that you can reach this call light. Okay, we'll just pretend. Is there anything else I can get for you while I'm here?
No.
Environment is clean. She is in a safe position. She has the call light. So I'm going to go open the curtain. Put my gait belt away. Wash my hands. And then tell the evaluator my skill is done. Thank you. Any questions? Okay. That is ambulate with a gait belt. If I got to pick my skills, if they said you can pick whatever skills you want to do, ambulate would be one of them. Because it's a very easy skill and quick. All right, so now we're moving on to page 127. So we go from quick and easy to the longest skill with the most steps. And that's partial bed bath. So when you're looking at partial bed bath, let's go back 1 page here. It has almost every single principle in it. Almost every single principle. Skill rules, opening, glove rules, barrier rules, privacy blanket, linen rules, scoot and roll, washing, basin cleaning, and the closing. The only thing we don't do anything with is shoe rules because they're in bed. Everything else is going to be in this particular skill. So it's a long skill. In fact, the state says somebody with your level of experience should be able to do this skill in 19 minutes or less. Longest skill we have. The good news is if you get this skill for the test, you get 2 super short skills to go with it, like respirations and range of motion. Super short skills to go with it. And it's a washing skill, so there's not really much to learn here. You already know all the principles involved. We just have to learn how to apply them to this particular skill. So when you're looking at this is going to take me about a half hour to teach you. So right around noonish, you will have time for practice. Remember I said you'll have about an hour of practice time built into today. So if you look at the care plan at the top of the page, it says to give the resident a partial bed bath and a back rub. We're not massage therapists, guys. This is just a circulation, make them feel a little better back rub, not a deep tissue anything. Okay. It says wash the resident's face, neck, chest, abdomen, back, and one arm and hand. How many arms? One. What if they have two? Too bad. That's right. We're only washing one, and they're not going to tell you which one. You get to pick. Because the state figures if they watch you wash, rinse, and dry, they know you know how to do it. They don't need to see it on the other side. And where do they want to be? At home in their pools, drinking their margaritas. Yes. Tells us to wash with soap and water. Provide a brief back rub with lotion. Dress the resident in a clean hospital gown after bathing. Patient is lying on back in center of bed and can roll as directed, but too weak to assist with bathing. So we don't have to do the whole arm up, arm over to turn them. They can roll. But the problem is, yeah, if you look down here, this is going to be on a mannequin, and mannequins don't roll real well. So you're going to have to help the mannequin out a little bit by scooting them towards you and rolling them to the center of the bed. When you do that, the evaluator is going to reach over and hold that mannequin. You're not going to have to ask them to do that. They will automatically do it because they know a real person in that bed could lay on their side. Mannequins don't lay on their side. So the evaluator will reach over and hold that mannequin for you while you're washing, rinsing, and drying the back, giving a back rub. So I got step-by-step instructions, tons of supplies here. You've got to learn your supplies. And all of these principles are going to be involved in this particular skill. But this is the last principle that we have to learn. This is it. I've got one blank area here that we never went over. And that's what we're going to focus on now. That is use the leaves method for body opening. So let's talk about that. To review washing rules, remember we don't add soap to the water in the basin. We use that water for rinsing. We are going to use a barrier to turn the water on. It should feel warm, not hot, not cold, just warm. And then we're going to ask our patient to check it as well. We're going to change that water if it gets cold or soapy. Whatever we wash, we rinse. Whatever rinse, we dry. And then we're going to keep our surfaces dry as well. We're going to warm up lotion before we put it on and then wipe off the excess. So this is the part that we haven't learned yet, the leaves method. And we're going to use this if we're going to wash any wet body opening. So a wet body opening would be eyes, nose, mouth, genitals, rectal area, wounds, rashes, sores, or incisions. Now, for those of you at home, I'm handing out washcloths. These are just plain square washcloths. If you've got one at home, go grab one because I'm going to show you a really cool way to use it. Okay, so I just handed washcloths out to all of the students in class so that we can learn how to use this washcloth a little bit differently than we're used to. So this is a normal square washcloth. You've probably got these at home hanging out in a linen closet somewhere. We usually have them folded in half and in half again so they make little squares. But instead of looking at this as a little square, I want you to look at it as a diamond. And if we hold this diamond up against our hands so that the free corners are at the top, not the folded. The folded would be way down here at the bottom. We want these free corners, the free corners at the top. Everybody got the free corners at the top? Now, once you have those free corners at the top and your washcloth is in a diamond shape, I want you to tuck the one side in by your pinky, and your thumb is going to hold the other side. So it should look like this. Now, we can wash something with this leaf, wash something, And then I can fold that leaf over, and that traps the contamination underneath. Now I have a new cleaning surface to work with. I can use that to wipe something, fold that over, and trap all of the contamination underneath, leaving me a new cleaning surface to work with. I can wipe something with that, fold it over, wipe something with the last one, and fold it over. And now I still have this side I can use as well. This is how we can wash wet body openings without cross-contamination. Okay, good. Good. So we're going to use this if we're going to wash the eyes, the nose, the mouth, anything that is wet. That, remember, all portals of entry and portals of exit. So eyes, nose, and mouth. And remember, our care plan told us to wash the face, neck, chest, abdomen. So face has eyes, nose, and mouth. So we're going to have to use this for this particular skill. We're also going to use it on genitals and anal area when we get to pericare, and any wounds, sores, rashes, or incisions as well. We're going to use the leaves method quite often. So if you can see this, this is what I was showing you earlier. So if you're holding this washcloth in your hand with the corner at the bottom, free ends at the top, and the two side pieces kind of tucked away, we can wipe something and fold it over, giving us a new cleaning surface. We can wipe something, fold that over, giving us a new cleaning surface. We can wipe, fold, wipe, fold, and you can use the back side too to wipe as well because it hasn't been contaminated. So we're going to follow the care plan here. Care plan says give the resident a partial bed bath and back rub. Wash the resident's face, neck, chest, abdomen, back, and one arm and hand with soap and water. Provide a brief back rub with lotion and dress the resident in a hospital gown. That's our care plan. The easiest way to remember this is face to waist, front and back. Face to waist, front and back. It doesn't tell us to wash below the waist. That's another skill that we're going to learn on Wednesday. Face to waist, front and back. We're going to do the face first. No soap on the face. Soap stings the eyes. It dries out the skin. Water only on the face. So we will wash the face. We're going to use the leaves method on wet body openings. You want to wring those washcloths out thoroughly. No drippy wet washcloths. Let me go back here. And you're going to wash one eye, inner to outer corner, fold that leaf over. Wash the other eye, inner to outer corner, fold that leaf over. Wash the face, fold that leaf over, and I do the nose last. Boogers, right? Now, because we didn't use soap on the face, we don't have to rinse it, so we're just going to dry. Now we're going to get to the rest of the body. We're going to wash the neck, the chest, the abdomen, the side, one arm, and hand, including the underarm. Now, I always do the underarm last because stinky parts. When we raise that arm up, you want to support it from below with a flat palm. We've heard that before. You never lift from above like this. Always from below with a flat palm. We'll set washcloths aside on the barrier. Remember, anything that has soap on it cannot go back in the basin. But rinsing washcloths can. So when we wash the torso and then we rinse the torso, that rinsing washcloth we can reuse. So the rinse one can go back in the basin, but not the one with soap applied to it. Then we'll turn the patient over. We're going to wash, rinse, and dry the back. We'll give a little back rub for circulation and comfort. We're going to start at the bottom of the back. We're going to go up in small circles to the shoulders 3 times. That's it. That's the whole back rub. You know when you were sick, when you were little, and mom comes along, just kind of gently rubs your back. It always makes you feel better. That's what we're doing here. Just help them feel a little better. Now, we do have to change a gown. It doesn't matter when you do this. I do this during the skill. So when I get the front cleaned, I'm going to change the gown out so that when I turn them over, and wash the back, I can just tie the gown. I don't have to turn them back over, put a gown on, turn them back on their side to tie the gown, turn them back on their back. It's a whole lot of extra turning. So if you put the gown on when you wash the front, so we washed, rinse, and dried the front, we put the new gown on. When you turn them over on their back and you're done with their back, all you gotta do is tie that gown. Super easy. Time saver. So we're going to place clean supplies on our barrier. We'll fill our basin using a paper towel. We're going to check it, make sure it's warm, have the patient check it. We're going to protect the bedding with a towel and untie the gown. We're going to use a privacy blanket. We are going to wear gloves, and the first thing they should touch is the patient. We're going to clean the face, inner to outer, on the eyes, no soap. Wash the rest of the face. We'll dry, controlling that towel. We'll wash the neck, chest, abdomen, side, one arm and hand. We'll rinse those areas. We'll dry those areas. And then we'll change the gown. Turn the patient over. Wash, rinse, and dry the back. Give a little back rub. Tie the gown. Remove the towel. And put the patient back in the center of the bed. We'll get rid of all of our used supplies. We'll clean our basin and put it back where it goes, and then remove the gloves before we remove the privacy blanket. And then we'll just do our closing. This is a long skill. 19 minutes for somebody with your level of experience. The video I'm about to show you, I think, is 14 minutes. So long skill. But remember, these are all of the checkpoints that we need to get checked off. So let me show you this one. And remember that you always have these videos available to you to watch. Jones, my name is Patty. I'm your CNA today. How are you? Good. I need to do partial bed bath. Is that okay? I'm going to close your curtain. Let me wash my hands, get my supplies, and I'll be right back. For this skill, I'm going to need a barrier for the table. This will give me a clean place to put my clean supplies. For this skill, I will need 4 washcloths, 2 towels, a clean gown, and a privacy blanket. It's a washing skill, so I will also need a basin, soap, and lotion. And I'll need a set of gloves. Ms. Jones, let me go get some water. I'll be right back. Ms. Jones, is this water appropriate temperature? Okay. And now I'm going to spread the privacy blanket out over you. This will help keep you warm and protect your privacy while we do this skill. I'm going to spread the blanket without snapping or shaking the blanket. And I'm going to pull your sheet down to about your waist. Okay, Ms. Jones, I'm going to ask you to sit forward for me in just a moment so I can untie your gown. And I'm going to spread this towel out underneath you to keep your sheets dry while we bathe you. Can I assist you to sit up, please? Thank you. I'm going to untie your gown and spread the towel out on the bed.
Go ahead and lay back down, Ms. Jones. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to spread the towel out underneath the arm. I'll remove the gown on the side closest to me, supporting the elbow as I lift it. And I'm going to relocate the gown to the other side of the patient. This leaves the patient uncovered underneath the privacy blanket for bathing. The blanket will keep you warm. Now I can apply my gloves. I'll take the first washcloth and wring it out. And I'm going to use 4 corners. We'll wash the face first, no soap on the face. Ms. Jones, I'm going to wash your eyes. I'll start with the closest eye to me. I'm going to wash from the inner to outer corner. Very gently. And then we'll fold this sleeve over to prevent contamination from spreading to the other eye. Ms. Jones, I'm going to wash your other eye now, inner to outer corner. We'll fold that leaf over. And then I'm going to wash the remainder of the face. Using very gentle strokes. And keeping control over the washcloth. We'll fold that leaf over and use the final washcloth for the nose. And then we'll set that aside. I'm going to take the towel and pat dry all areas of her face, making sure not to use too much force. We'll set the towel aside. We're going to take the second washcloth and wring it out. And we'll apply soap to the top leaf. We do not need to use the leaves method because all of her skin from this point is intact. We're going to wash behind the ear, under the chin, across the neck, the upper torso. We're going to lift the blanket to protect privacy but keep the patient covered while we wash down to the abdomen and up the side. Now for the exam, you are going to make sure the patient remains covered until the evaluators ask you to remove the blanket. At that point, you will just continue on. I am going to repeat these actions so that you can see what I have done. I'll remove the blanket for better visualization. Behind the ears, across the chin, the neck, the upper torso, around the breasts, down the abdomen, and up the side. Then we'll clean down the front of the arm, the hand, up the back of the arm, lifting at the elbow, and the armpit last. We'll set this washcloth aside because it has soap on it. We'll take the third washcloth in the basin and wring it out. And we're going to rinse all the areas that we just washed. So behind the ear, under the chin, across the neck, the upper torso, around the breasts, the abdomen, up the side, down the front of the arm, keeping the elbow supported on the bed. We'll rinse the hand, the back of the arm, and the armpit while supporting the arm. The rinse washcloth can go back in the basin for later use. Now we're going to dry all of those areas. So we're going to pat dry or use short, soft strokes, but nothing vigorous. Go ahead and lift your arm, Miss Jones. We'll set the towel aside. Now the patient has a clean torso, so we'll place the clean gown on her. Ms. Jones, can you reach your arm through here? I'll help you put your gown on. We'll lift the arm at the elbow, supporting it as we lift. And we'll spread the gown out. Okay, Okay, Ms. Jones, I'm going to go around to the other side of the bed now, and we'll dress the other arm. Since the care plan said that we only needed to wash one arm, we do not need to cleanse this other arm. That's per the care plan, but we do need to dress it. So I'll remove the soiled gown, and we're going to place this in dirty linen. And then I'll put the new gown on. Ms. Jones, can you reach through this armhole? Thank you. And go ahead and lift. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Jones, I'm going to ask you to turn onto your left side now. This is going to allow me to wash your back and give you a brief back rub. So I'm going to ask you to scoot toward me, and we're going to roll you onto your left side. Ready? Go ahead and scoot toward me. 1, 2, 3. Now the evaluator will hold the mannequin in place while you complete your cleaning. So I'm going to take the third washcloth, wring it out, and we'll soap the top leaf. I'm going to wash the back of the neck, the shoulders, and the back down to the waist. We'll set that washcloth aside. We'll take the final washcloth and wring it out, and we're going to rinse all of those areas. The back of the neck, the shoulders, and the back down to the waist. And then finally we'll dry all of those areas. The back of the neck and the shoulders, the back down to the waist. Now our care plan asks us to give the patient a brief back rub. So we're going to use a little bit of lotion, making sure to warm the lotion in our hands before we give them a back rub. Ms. Jones, I'm going to give you a little back rub now. I'm going to start at the small of your back and work my way up in small circles to your shoulders. We'll do this 3 times. This is for circulation purposes. 1, 2, one more, and 3. I'm going to wipe off the excess lotion. Now I can tie the patient's gown. And remove the towel that's protecting the linens. Ms. Jones, come on back onto your back, please, and scoot to the middle of the bed. Thank you. I do not want to touch that sheet that's going to go right up next to her face with soiled gloves, but I need my soiled gloves to take care of all of my dirty linens. Ms. Jones, I'll be right back. These items are going to go into dirty linen. Now I'm going to go clean the basin. I'll empty the basin and rinse it, and then pick it up with a paper towel. I'll dry the inside with one paper towel and throw it away, and then dry the outside with a paper towel and throw that away. And I'll get one for the drawer. I'll collect the soap and the lotion, placing them in the basin, and return the basin to its drawer for storage. Paper towels can be thrown away. This barrier is going to be discarded, and now I can remove my gloves. Okay, Ms. Jones, I'm going to remove your privacy blanket now and pull your sheet back up. Are you comfortable? Good. We're going to roll the privacy blanket in a ball so that the trailing edges don't contaminate other surfaces. This will be placed in dirty linen. Okay, Ms. Jones, is there anything else I can get for you while I'm here, such as a magazine? No? Okay, here's your call light. If you should need anything at all, please let me know. I'm going to open the privacy curtain and wash my hands. After washing my hands, I'll think about the steps of my skill, make any corrections, and tell the evaluator my skill is done.
All right, any questions? No? Okay, you have one chapter of homework tonight, chapter 7. It's another skills chapter. So don't pay attention or don't read through the skills, but read the paragraphs in between. And any skills we're not covering in class as well. Let me get you your review sheets. Does anybody have any questions for me? Anything I can help you with? Okay, those of you that are joining us remotely, you have access to these review sheets as well on flcnatraining.com. This is what the review sheet looks like up on the screen. They're double-sided, and you can print them off and play along at home. Remember that we have the game show tomorrow, so feel free to join us for the game show if you want to see the types of questions you would see on the state exam. It's a great way to practice for the state exam, and that is all that I have for you today. So if you want to take a break, that's fine. You have an hour to practice. You are not required to stay for practice. Anybody can leave at any time. It is adult education. But remember that we covered some skills today that you're probably not going to have the supplies for to practice at home. You probably don't have a mannequin laying around or a gait belt or dentures. So, you really want to take advantage of the time that you have available to you here. You will also have time on Wednesday as well for practice. Probably about a little over an hour on Wednesday. Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and sign off of our live stream. So those of you that joined us live, thank you so much for tuning in. And we will see you on Wednesday at 9. If you have any questions, please bring them to Wednesday's class. I'll be happy to answer them for you. I hope you have a fantastic day. See you tomorrow on the game show. And until next time, happy caregiving. Bye.